Chris, one of our senior developers, is going to be giving it on the life cycle of an icon.
All right. So icons, they're all around us. The best icons you might not even notice. Our icon creation process, like we're gonna dive into our icon creation process and see the tools that we've used, the problems that we've hit along the way, and talk about the things we've learned in making an icon system here at AIR. As Shane said, I'm a senior developer here. I run our UX engineering, which essentially I think of it as helping our developers have a good developer experience and our apps have a good user experience. Just about every app you use uses icons. Every modern app, from Gmail, you see them here, Twitter, they're all over, Spotify, even AIR uses many icons. But managing icons can be a bit of a mess. Some of the problems we face here at AIR are that moving icons from the design team to the developers can take some time. Icons end up all over the place in folders, between projects, and there's no set way of how they're used. There's a couple different use cases and patterns. And the icons were created at different times, so it didn't always seem like a cohesively themed set. So ultimately, the goals that we want to address, we set out to address improving the speed of the handoff, defining a single way to use them so that they display the same everywhere, and keeping our icons in sync across teams. To reach these goals, creating and implementing icons requires all the teams to be involved in the process. It starts with a feature request from the product team coming down from Tyler. The design team visually interprets it and puts it together and sends it off to what we consider like the UX engineering part of it, where there's the creation and the documentation of this icon, and then the publishing of that code. And then the implementation happens in our web and mobile teams. So we came up with an icon system that is themable, easy to update, live documented, lives in a single package, and has the exact same usage across all our apps. So for our first goal, speeding up the design handoff, the process starts in Illustrator. Following these strict requirements, and we don't have to go through them all, icons are laid out in Illustrator on a predefined grid and constructed as stroke-based compound shapes. This ensures our icons are themable as a family, so you can adjust obviously like the colors, but even the roundness, how squared off they are, to the thickness of them. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Mari, our wonderful icon designer, who helps keep all these cohesive as a nice icon set that has the same visual weight between all the icons. From Illustrator, the icon is exported and as an optimized SVG path with a single path tag, which is important. So we take this path, which is this string, and we bring it into our in-house theming tool. The design team from here can test out combinations of any of the icon properties that are available to them. And when they feel satisfied that the icon works in any situation, or as many as they wanted to test, the SVG path is then submitted to the UX engineering through this tool. There's a submit button up there. Now that we've created a seamless design handoff, it's time to address our second goal of ensuring identical usage and display across platforms. So we take the SVG path and bring it into our monorepo. Our monorepo is where all of our code lives. We have shareable packages in there, including our icons package, which is named AIR icons. Within the icons package, we'll see a TypeScript file called icons. And this is essentially how that file is laid out. You associate the icon SVG path with a name that we give it, for example, the search icon. And this may get a little technical, but why do we choose TypeScript? And this is because all of our developers are actually using VS Code, which has IntelliSense built in, and I think other editors do have that as well. It's helpful to write in TypeScript because we have things like code completion. Once they bring in this icon and they just type in name, they start using that prop. All the available icon names that we have predefined are available to them without them having to reference the documentation or try to remember what the icon's name is. So all our sites and apps are built in React. Our shared icon component, this is kind of a simplified version of the icon component. Essentially, it's built in React and TypeScript. It has sensible defaults for all our available props and has a TypeScript interface of our prop tags. All that to be said, the usage is very simple. You just import the package, the icons package, and then you just choose a name for the icon that you want to use. So then it's time for testing. At this point, we use just snapshot tests to ensure our icons work as expected, including all different edge cases we can think of, like whether the icon looks good within a button next to text, or all sorts of different tests. We make sure that they're passing, and then we can move on from the testing. The final piece of the icon component is accessibility. Accessibility is a primary concern for all our components in our design system. We make sure our icon component meets modern accessibility standards, and this is important because accessibility is good for people who may access your app not using a mouse, or they may be using a screen reader, different things that make accessibility really important. In this icon component, a particular thing we do is make sure that every SVG has a title tag, so that if you're not actually seeing the icon, it can at least be explained to you on the screen reader. We offer a title prop to override that, which it takes the name to start with. We make sure that these icons are accessible. Now that we have a fast design handoff, our icons can be used in the same way across platforms. It's time to synchronize our icons across teams. So we begin this process by creating good documentation, and our design system documentation is, we call it Zephyr. Our icon component, now being fully tested, is ready to go into our design system. This, our design system is built in a tool called Docs with MDX. Now, if you watch this video here, you'll see that Docs gives us out-of-the-box live code examples in our documentation. So you can change the stroke width, the color, even the icon altogether. So this is a very helpful feature of our documentation. And it's also built with MDX, which I'm not sure if this is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Markdown, but Markdown plus React is MDX. So we can write this documentation, keep it up to date in a very simple way. It's almost just like writing a script, and then writing a Google Doc, and then just putting in the components where we need them. Next up is NPM, where we manage our JavaScript packages. If all the icon variations look good in Zephyr, then it's time to publish to our Air Icons package on our private NPM repository. Now, we get a major benefit from namespacing our monorepo and our NPM organization name as both @Air. This is really neat because in the monorepo, the latest Air Icons version will use the local symlink package, but if we reference any other version, like a previous version of this package, it will know without having to make any changes to pull it remotely from NPM. So onto our mobile team for implementation of the icons. Our iOS app is built in React Native, and with the help of a small NPM script, we are able to import and use this icon in the exact same way that we use it on the web or in our Zephyr docs. Usage will be exactly the same for any future platforms we build. And finally, when it comes time to retire, update, or create a new icon, a GitHub project, similar to the Kanban boards used in Trello, is used to track all icon proposals. The icon process starts again. So to conclude, there are many people and tools involved in creating and implementing an icon. Through this process, we now have a quick way for the design team to hand off optimized icon SVG paths. We have a fully tested icons where usage is identical across our apps. And we have a single version package that holds all our shared icons with live documentation so that all our teams stay in sync. From here, we have our icon system ready for any future icon needs. Before I hop off here, I'd love to give a quick demo of the icon theming tool that I referenced earlier. If I click this pair, I think it'll take it down. There we go. Nice. Okay, so this is the theming tool that I was referring to. Essentially, this is a list of all the icons that we use. For example, the check mark, or I love the volume. But essentially, you can kind of play around with how it looks at all different sizes. You can theme it with thinner strokes. Turn this grid off to really see it better. You change the colors. You can even round off or square off the edges where they meet. I'm not sure if that's completely visible. We can even add a border around it and see how it's going to look at different border sizes. Play around with the padding. You can even make this border completely squared off if you want to. So this is a nice tool for playing around with all the different themes and making sure this thing is visually tested and ready to go. If you're ready to submit an icon that you've built in Illustrator, you paste in path here, for example this heart, you would have a submit button here when you're ready to go live with it. And yesterday I built in a feature here to really test the balance of theming these things with this kind of party randomizer, just to see if it really works at every single situation. So you can get pretty crazy with it. But that is generally the talk here. I would love to open this up to questions. Anyway, I have some resources in there with links, which I'd be happy to share out of all the different things that I mentioned. Oh, this is all our icons. Here's the resources, and thank you. Does anyone have Taylor?
Is that tool something you built, or it already exists out in the wild?
It's a tool we built in-house. Yes.
When is it being open source?
It's live on the website, right?
Yeah, anyone can play around with it if you just hit our design.aircamera.com. You can play around with it. I'd be happy to get you started building your own if you want.
Sort of to follow on that, why did you feel the need to build your own tool for design? What did other things not get right? Why was this more helpful for the team? What did it accelerate?
Yeah, so the thing that I personally saw a lot of value in is that, let me pull it up while essentially everything here are the actual React props that are available to the icon component. So this isn't just let's play around with it and see if it would be good on a red background. This is everything that actually is available to the developer, and the designer can really say this is exactly how I wanted it. I wanted this amount of padding. I wanted a circular border. So they can really see if this thing works at all sizes. My next iteration would be to show all the icons and theme them all at once to really see if like this stays a visually cohesive, themable family of icons. Oh, what was that?
Do you do any user testing to see whether a particular icon is understood or appreciated the same way that you intended it? Like a user focus group or asking
Like to
people?
see if the icons are actually doing what we hope they do, like people recognize that this searches if you click the search.
Yeah.
I think there's some that's more on the design side, so I think a lot of thought has gone into that. I'm not exactly sure of the full process of our research in on that. But yeah, there definitely has been.
One more question.
Yes.
How do you add to the accessibility stuff here? Where do you define that in terms of this tool?
So that's as I was explaining earlier, this name, essentially, if I click delete, the accessibility aspect of this would be that the title tag gets the word delete in there. However, the prompt that I did not include in this is title, and you can actually override delete, where you could say remove from this menu, or some kind of like, you could really explain what this thing is. So that is available. I didn't think that was needed in the visual treatment, but maybe worth throwing in there. Yes.
I'm not sure if you guys are at the scale where this is a concern yet, but have you thought at all about like localizing icons? Would that ever be a concern that you have to worry about? Do you imagine that playing in here?
Localizing is in like getting on a CDN or?
Localizing, well, that's one.
Oh,
that's
I know.
Like, I mean, region-specific icons, right?
Gotcha. So that's actually a separate project we're working on. That is another package that we're building out in our Monterey code called ideation, which is internationalization. It's not a heavy concern right now, so there's less focus on it. But we will be focusing on all of our strings in our apps. So all of these would be translated into, every language that, we see appropriate.
I was going to ask what the process looked like between Maribel and you before all of this existed.
So the process, we kind of had a couple processes. Where is Mark? So, yeah, this is our amazing icon designer. So she would essentially build this out. There was a lot of I feel like we talked a little, and then it was sent over. It was put into, I don't know if you've used CodePen, but it's essentially like a code playground like JS Fiddle. So she would throw in all the SVGs there so that I could see them, and we'd have a shared thing like that. Or she'd send up updates on Slack. So this is a little more of a tidy process, and we've actually been using it this past week a lot to really make sure, because the submission thing was added more recently. I think it's been going well. Making my life a little.
Like at the beginning, it was messy because like I have experience but I've never really before like Lifecycle. I've been a developer, and like this guy wondered it. So imagine that like I have to learn how to read code and how to like sort of not necessarily the right way, but sort of understand what was like like professional.
That makes me happy to hear. Oh, yes.
Do you use your own product, Eric, to kind of manage your versions?
So with icons, because we're dealing with SVGs and it's pretty much like, right, you know, we're sharing like code snippets. No, but we have used Air to share, you know, when building out the marketing website, like sharing assets along there. We definitely dog food our own product a bit. Well, thank you.
Cool.